Okay. Um, hey guys, I wanted to record this quick video and talk a little bit about some of the comments that I received on the Reddit post. First of all, I'm really grateful that there are so many people invested in this. I know it's very personal for people, especially when everyone's trying to feel better um, after often years of having this condition. I myself have had this for more than 15 years and I've tried literally everything. So I want to highlight a few things. One, I want to talk about like different medications I've tried, different protocols I've tried, what my doctors have been telling me over the last decade or so. I want to talk more about the diets that I've tried as well. And then finally, I want to just kind of explain or reiterate what my goals are for this experiment. So, one, uh, I started off on just purely levothyroxine, the generic version of Synthroid. I've tried Synthroid as well. I started on 50 micrograms. I've gone all the way up to 200, like I said, micrograms of T4 only. And then I switched to NDT. I switched to, I think I was on 3 grains, or I don't remember the dosage, but I was on a pretty high amount of NDT, natural desiccated thyroid. I've been on, as I mentioned in a previous video, I've done combination T4 and T3, and I didn't get it compounded. I just took, I think it was liothyronine and levothyroxine together, and I've also done T3 only therapy. The reason I went back to T4 is because I felt like anytime I included T3, there were just more variables, and it was just a lot more difficult to manage. I know that T4 is like considered the gold standard. I know that there's a lot of history with NDT and all that stuff. I've read a ton of books, maybe 4 different books on how to treat thyroid disorders, and I've also been to literally all the groups, like the Yahoo groups, the Facebook groups, where people follow very specific protocols, like Stop the Thyroid Madness group. They have very specific markers they look for, and I followed everything to the letter, and I still felt really off and not good. Now, I'm not I'm not in a great place by any means, but I'm a lot better than I used to be, and as you can tell, I'm able to hold my own in terms of my cognition is fine. I have some brain fog occasionally, but usually I can pinpoint that to overexerting myself from a metabolic standpoint. So if I exercise too hard or if I eat too much. So it's really important. Over the years, I've learned that I really need to listen to my body. I've learned a lot of tricks to help me feel my best, and if I ignore them, I always pay the price, and it's very easy. I'm very in tune with my body and aware, so that helps me a lot. In terms of the diets I've tried, for 10 years I was basically eating everything. I was on the standard American diet. I it's really bad. I've been sitting at my desk job and eating sleeves of Oreos, like the most terrible eating you can imagine. I would have snacks at my desk at all times, and I think in retrospect, I had insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome. I probably was prone to hypoglycemic episodes because I was always hungry, and I guess I was addicted to carbs and sugar and processed foods to some degree, and I have a feeling that that's partially why I developed this in the first place. Growing up, I did not eat well, so that's probably why that happened. If I had to guess. Now, from there, I started becoming more conscious of what I ate and what I put in my body, and I started paying more attention. Before that, I mean, for the first 25 years of my life, I had worked out religiously, like 3 days a week. I did many sports. I was very active. So I always kind of took for granted that I could eat whatever I wanted, and I never gained any weight either. I'm actually um, generally lean, and so that kind of brings me to my objectives, which I'll talk about in a bit. But I never really thought much about what I ate because I always thought if I'm becoming unhealthy, then I should be gaining weight. If I'm not gaining weight, therefore I'm not unhealthy. And I know how stupid that sounds, but this was kind of the prevailing wisdom amongst society too. Like, if you're not gaining weight, then you're healthy. And I'm upset that I didn't know better, but there wasn't any way that I could. Although, you know, I don't know. I think that the community or society oversimplified nutrition, and I think they still do. I think we've come a long way. At the very least, we've determined that, well, even this is controversial. Saying that seed oils, vegetable oils are bad for you is controversial, which I don't think it should be. But at the end of the day, I want to know what works, and I'm willing to do anything to figure it out and to implement it and to basically take control of my life. I'm very competitive, and I want to be able to live the life that I want and have the best energy and be there for my family and all of that. So obviously, I have a very, very big incentive to do everything I can to make this work. So diet, I've tried. So from standard American diet, I went to vegan diet, and I did that for about 6 months. Now, then those 6 months, I read the China study. I read a bunch of different books. I got really into um, doing like those DNA testing and figuring out what my mutations were and stuff like that. I got really into gut microbiome related stuff. I thought that was a ticket, genetics, and I thought maybe this is just something I have to live with. So it was a very long and difficult journey to understand kind of what the landscape really looked like for me and what I could do and what I couldn't control. And it was really painful to come to terms with the possibility that there was nothing I can do to control this. So naturally, I'm sure a lot of people are in that same boat. Like, they feel like, okay, I'm genetically predisposed, but in my case, no one in my family ever had hypothyroidism. Nobody. I was literally the first. So to me, it always seemed odd. Like what makes it so that that one person develops it, and I didn't develop it right away. I developed it, I want to say I was officially diagnosed in college, but I have a feeling I had it way earlier than that. But I mean, what is it that triggered it? It can't be random chance. It had to have been something, right? It's autoimmune in nature. But anyways, so I tried vegan diet, didn't work out. And when I say it didn't work out, I mean I felt horrible. I felt really, really tired, sluggish. And there were people who were like, "Oh, you got to take supplements." So I took supplements and didn't work. People were like, "Oh, you got to do it healthy way. You got to get the fats in." So I would add coconut oil to my Brussels sprouts, and I really tried my best. I steamed my vegetables, and then I started adding lean proteins back in and eggs. I was a vegetarian, and then I added chicken, and then eventually I added meat back in. I started feeling better, and then I don't know what happened, but I just never felt good enough. Everything was kind of going downhill, so I made some major changes. I just kept experimenting. From there, a few years ago, I saw some videos on the carnivore diet, and I was just as skeptical as the rest of you. I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. Obviously, someone who is obsessed with the gut microbiome, I was like, how could they give up fiber? This doesn't make any sense. It can't be healthy. But I learned a lot about what we don't know. Um, I learned a lot about epidemiology and how weak it can be, and how the minority can amplify the voice of really poor studies or really poor data to inform a conclusion that is frankly weak, and not substantiated on evidence that should even be considered at times. Like, sometimes it was crazy the kind of studies we would take as gospel. So anyway, I figured, what the hell, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I did 90 days of carnivore, and it was not strict. It was like very loose, but sure enough, week 5 of doing carnivore, my allergies disappeared, and I've had allergies my whole life. And this has nothing to do with the thyroid, but I thought if an autoimmune condition related to my allergies can improve, then why can't my thyroid improve? So with that, I continued, and then I noticed improvements in my energy levels and everything. So I stayed on it, but when I tested my blood, I felt like uh, there's something missing. I wasn't getting it. I felt like I felt really good, and then I felt worse afterwards. Um, I think there are several reasons for that, but regardless, eventually the path that I came down was I first of all, I sort of abandoned the carnivore diet. Not totally. I still felt like it was helpful, but I went back to eating carbs occasionally here and there because I felt like, okay, I could always do this if I want to feel better. I kind of took it for granted. I went keto, dirty keto, whatever. This past 2 months, I was eating a lot of carbs, like 250 grams, maybe 300 grams of carbs a day. And I felt relatively fine. So I feel like the year prior, where I was dirty keto, you could say, helped in terms of healing something in my gut. I cut out gluten for sure, even though one, I did an anti-gluten antibodies test and I tested negative, so I don't have celiacs. However, I'm also aware that the testing for celiacs is inadequate, and I don't think that it's good enough or sufficient for determining whether gluten actually harms the body. I think my gut tells me that it does. Pun not intended. And the reason for that is because it's really hard to measure intestinal permeability. There's a lot of tests like, checking for zonulin and blah, blah, blah. But none of them are perfect. So when people say, oh, there's no evidence, it's really tough. It's really hard to say. But I don't think that it's good for you. So whatever, I gave it up, even though eating pasta was like my life. And even though when I ate bread, even now, I don't necessarily feel any dramatic side effects. In fact, I don't feel any side effects unless I eat like 3, 4 bagels and then I just go into a carb coma, but that's just because I'm overdoing it and probably spiking my insulin. So, anyway, in the last 2 months, I was on what you would call a balanced diet. I was eating carbs, I was having vegetables, I was having fruits, I was having a little bit of gluten, but I was eating whole foods for the most part. I was having desserts here and there. I was on vacation, but I didn't overdo it. I didn't have shakes or like particularly sweet things. I didn't snack much all day. I only ate like 2 meals a day. So I tested my blood. The blood test results are in another video that you can check for yourself. And as you can see, there's a lot wrong with me. But that's okay because I think the fact that I'm under medicated now is actually the best time for me to do this experiment, because before I felt like I was over medicated, and when I would go keto, I would need to reduce my medication, but in order to do that, I would have to put up with a lot of pain and suffering for several months because it takes a while for my hormones to kind of balance out. But I'm very stubborn, so I've tried coming on and off medication. I've done a lot of different experiments. Now, right now, my objective is I want to, again, isolate all the variables, okay? I'm on 25 micrograms of T4 only. It's a very, very low dose. It's extremely low. It's lower than I should be on. Because my TSH is 100, well, it's over 150. They stopped counting. I don't even know what it is. But that doesn't mean I can't get some useful insight from this experiment. If I've been on 25 micrograms for the last 3 or 4 months now, then I'll be able to really see what's going on. Is my thyroid getting worse or better? Now, obviously, it's possible that I won't know whether it got better or worse because the TSH stays above 150. I would be surprised if my TSH went below 150, to be honest with you. That's why I wish I had the exact numbers. But at least I have free T4 and free T3, and I have my lipids, and I have homocysteine, and I have vitamin D levels, and I have my sex hormone levels. If all of those things improve, I'm going to keep doing it. If they all get worse or stay the same, I'm going to increase my medication. I'm probably going to increase my medication regardless, and I'll get into that later, but if they stay the same or get worse, then I'm going to just increase my medication and probably consider going on testosterone replacement therapy so that my free testosterone is back up. Because right now it's really bad. Like my total T is over 600, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that, but because of my high SHBG levels, my free testosterone or bioavailable testosterone is below the normal range. And I definitely feel it. I feel the effects of that at the gym and outside the gym too. So I'm going to do my best. Again, I appreciate critical and positive feedback from the community. I don't want to alarm anyone. I know that some people think I'm probably being an idiot or taking unnecessary risks or discounting or completely denying the science. I'm not. I am. I'm textbook until the textbook isn't working. And the textbook, for me, has not worked. It's let me down over and over and over again. I've been to many doctors. People think that I just need to listen to my doctor and everything will be better. Everything will be rainbows and happiness. And it's just not the case. I've had my TSH within range for 10 years. And I felt everything from really good to manic to depressed to extreme brain fog to feeling like I could lift really well and then I can't lift at all, having like lower back pain to feeling no pain at all. So it's very difficult to get a good sense of where I need to be or what's wrong. And obviously there's a lot of variables, and I'm not ignorant of that. Like I've done blood tests. I've gotten my vitamin D levels fixed. I've gotten my B12 fixed. I've gotten my iron fixed. I've checked my saliva cortisol. I've done everything you could think of. Okay, so when I want to spend $800 on a blood test before do 90 days of this diet and then do another blood test, I think I'm entitled to that. And I think that when I speak on the kind of experience that I'm having and what I want to do and what I think may or may not be healthy for me, I want everyone to know that I do sort of know what I'm doing. Even though I'm taking risks for sure, I'm not saying that I know what the answer is. I just know that the path I'm going down will teach me a lot, and that is really important for me. More important than feeling good right away. So I'm willing to suffer a little bit in the short term in order to, benefit myself and hopefully the community. Hopefully the things that I learn on this journey will help others as well. So again, my objective, I want to gain 15 pounds of muscle. Right now with my testosterone as low as it is, I can't work out that much. I immediately feel like I've overdone it. Like I'll feel the soreness way too soon, the lactic acid buildup way too soon. Even going into the sauna, I feel like my body kind of overheats quickly. So I don't want to put too much pressure on my body. I'm going to keep it light. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And the only thing I'm going to change is this diet. And yes, 1 stick of butter and a steak per day. That's the goal. Although, like I said, red meat and the equivalent amount of fat, if I don't have the butter or I don't have the steak, for example, I'll eat my ground beef. Same thing. So I think it will. My predictions are I expect my lipid panel to improve hopefully dramatically because my triglycerides are disgustingly high. My HDL is fine, but again, that's not really saying anything considering the fact that my triglycerides, one, are very high and my LDL is extremely high. What else can I say? I guess that's it. I mean, people have commented about the lack of fiber in the vegetables. It's true that the consensus says that you need fiber in your diet to feel good and to be healthy and all that stuff. I'm not saying that's not true. What I am saying is that vegetables, I'm allergic to a lot of them, and they give me a lot of issues. And there's plenty of studies that suggest that you can have really good alpha diversity without fiber, because this is a common myth, is that fiber is apparently the only thing that can feed gut bacteria, but that's completely false. Otherwise, overeating sugar wouldn't affect your gut bacteria. The reality is that some of the same bacteria that's healthy for you can be fed by multiple energy substrates, for example, fatty acids. So there's actually a study called Gut Diet Quickly and Reproducibly Alters Gut Microbiome. And that study shows a chart, two comparisons, an animal-based diet and a fiber-based diet. And it shows that the one that has no fiber in it actually has a lot of alpha diversity. I think it's something that we don't really know too well. It's this, what a good gut microbiome looks like is something that I don't think anyone has figured out. In fact, there are a lot of companies, for example, Ubiome, that went out of business because they've tried to commercialize or productize the idea of having a good analysis of your gut microbiome, and they failed miserably at it. It's not accurate, number one, and it doesn't always. So, for example, you can detect that you have negative gram bacteria, like E. coli or other really dangerous pathogens or pathogenic bacteria. That's great. You can do that. But as far as what composition is healthy and optimal, they have not figured. They're not even close. They have not even close to that. So, I mean, it's very frustrating when you're doing everything you possibly can to feel good, and the evidence is just not there, and doesn't support what you're trying to do. So either way, and you don't need fiber to use the bathroom. That's been debunked already, because there are people who haven't had fiber in years and they go to the bathroom like on a daily basis. So if you can't explain that, then you're just being dogmatic with the fiber thing. Again, I'm not saying that vegetables and fiber doesn't have a place in a healthy diet. I just don't necessarily think it's necessary. I don't necessarily think it's required. Let's put it that way. But we'll see. I mean, let's see how my blood markers do at the end of this 90 days. I was on a healthy-ish diet for 2 months, okay? And healthy-ish relative to what the modern day nutritionist would tell you, right? I was varying up my foods, and I'm not changing anything except for that. So we'll see how it goes. Again, I appreciate the comments and the even the criticism, as harsh as it can be. And again, I'm being vulnerable in sharing all this with you guys.
Time now 4:30.
I want you guys to know that I'm not trying to fudge the data. I'm here as an N of 1 experiment. I know a lot about my condition, and I know what makes me feel good and what doesn't. But at the same time, I want to be empirical with this and really break it down with numbers that I can point to and say, look, what's going on here? Why is this happening? Et cetera, et cetera. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching, reading, commenting. It really helps me out. And at the end of the day, like, I'm going to do what's best for me. Like, it has nothing, I don't have an ego in this. My objective is solely for my own gain and my family's. So I have no reason to deny the science other than to feel better. And if I have a reason to believe that the science is just not there yet, then I'm going to have to prove it to myself, experiment, take some risks, which is what I'm doing. And then hopefully by the end of this, everyone will see for themselves, including myself, where the gaps are in terms of the knowledge within the medical community. And I do think there's a lot of gaps. Again, we can talk about that in another video. But I mean, to pretend like we have everything figured out is crazy. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks again for the support and love so far. I know that we're a small community, but I really do believe that what we're getting closer to understanding how to optimally treat our conditions. So thanks, guys. I will see you in the next video.